I thought, okay, you just do it once. Some camera or the other will capture you and khatam. Yeah. Oh, you're a hunchback and you have toothpick legs and chicken legs and you're a flat screen TV and okay, will people like it? Will they get bored of me? Will they not want to see me on screen? I did have a much easier start than everyone else. Because in every film like Gehraiyan, Control, I'm only getting cheated on.
Hi Ananya, thank you so much for speaking to us today.
Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. I have one very interesting question for you, which is what are you more excited about, being on the Fulljari cover or the Forbes India cover?
So this is, I think, the toughest question that you're going to be asking me. I think I'm targeting two very different audiences with that one. But really, I don't know, growing up, there was this like idea that if you were on a Fulljari packet, that meant like, you know, you've made it and you've like achieved something in life. And like every year I'd wait for Diwali and sneakily look if I was on the packet, and I was in.
Oh, wow.
And then this year I was. So very happy about that, but also very happy to be on the cover of Forbes.
I'm sure. It is definitely an impossible choice, I'm sure.
It's like Marcy and, you know, the niche audience kind of.
No, I'm sure. But well, I think that's a fantastic start. And you know, for you, the last 2 years have been fantastic with the kind of projects that you've picked. As you reflect back, you know, tell us your thoughts of this wonderful journey that you've had.
Honestly, it feels like however cliche and cheesy it may sound, I really feel like I'm living in a dream right now. You know, there's so much work that I shot for last year that's finally coming out this year. And I feel like people last year kept saying like, okay, what are you doing next? What are you doing next? And I wasn't talking about it much. I was like, okay, you know, wait for next year. There's a lot of stuff coming out, but I couldn't give away too much. And also the kind of stuff that I've done this year with, you know, Call Me Bae and Control, they've been slightly off-center, you know, especially with Call Me Bae. You know, it's been loved by so many people, but before it came out, there were a lot of apprehensions from people about, do you want to do a show so early on? You know, no one else is doing a show. You're completely leading it, like you are Bae, you're the central character, you're in almost every single scene, so are you ready to take on something like that? And also, there were apprehensions, I wouldn't say apprehensions in my mind, but there were certainly doubts in terms of would people accept a show like this, because it is very on the nose, it's very, it's privileged, but it makes it known that it knows it's privilege, if that makes sense. You know, it's very like, it's self-referential and it's kind of like making that bubble very obvious from the word go, honestly. So I was nervous about, will people get the tone of the show, because even the humor is very tongue-in-cheek in that sense. So I was very, very excited for things to come out, but also definitely nervous, because actually a lot of things that I did this year, counting Call Me Bae and Control, I was headlining as well. Even in Control, I'm in every frame. So I was nervous because I was like, okay, will people like it? Will they get bored of me? Will they not want to see me on screen? But luckily, touch wood, like, people have liked it.
It's been amazing.
Yes.
No, definitely. And, you know, like you rightly said, it's been an interesting choice in terms of the projects that you've picked. And most have been on OTT in a sense. So was that like a conscious choice or was it coincidence?
I think it was a coincidence because obviously Call Me Bae would have been on OTT because it's a show, but when it was up to Control and Kho Gaye Hum Kahan, at the time, when I signed the film and when we were shooting those films, it wasn't decided if it was going to be in cinemas or on a platform. We just kind of shot it for whatever it went on. And I think once the films were ready, the makers and, you know, whoever was involved, and even as actors, we felt like going on the, in that case, both on Netflix, that made the best sense for those projects, and it would reach the right audience. So I really truly believe that whatever happens, happens for a reason, and every film has its own destiny. So I don't think about or get too involved in where the final product is going to go, because some things are just out of your control.
Nice. And you know, I mean, like you rightly said, you've done both films for OTT, you've done a fantastic TV show, and of course the big screen. Is there like a difference in terms of the shooting process at all?
No, not the shooting.
I mean, from your end, is there like a difference in the way you approach it also?
Not really. I don't think in terms of when you're shooting something, because as I said, besides Bae, nothing else was for sure going to go on OTT. So it didn't alter our performance in any sort of way, I don't think so. Because at the end of the day, it's still a screen that people are watching you on. So I don't think you can think also that this is cinema acting and this is this. Because people watch things on all kinds of screens. Like even if it did go on cinemas, eventually it will come on an OTT platform and a TV screen and a phone screen. So I don't think that it changes. At least I don't change my performance.
But, and when it comes to the TV show, you playing Bae, of course. Is it a far more enduring experience for you? Because, I mean, you were doing that non-stop in the same character for a long period of time, right?
No, for sure. Shows is like a marathon, I would say. You know, it's something that you have to really. I mean, in everything, it wouldn't be fair for me to say you have to give everything in a show. But I think for me also it was when I was playing a central character also. So for me, that was. As you said, enduring in that sense. And you have to also be very cognizant of what episode you're shooting and when you're shooting what, because there's a lot more material, you know. With films, there's a lot of stuff that's left to your imagination, or they don't show everything. But when it comes to a TV show, they put a lot into it. Especially with 8 episodes, there was a lot going into it. So it is more enduring, I would say, in terms of time and in terms of hours and how much you give. And for me, Bay as a character was also the first time I was doing comedy. So I was definitely nervous about that. And you have to, as a character, she's not only speaking, you know, funny things, she's also physically very funny. Like if you notice her in the background of a shot, even when she's not talking, she's doing something.
Yeah.
You know, there's a
And
scene
she's
with
super,
the
like, clumsy and
there's a
like,
scene with the security guard, and I realized that I
Oh.
didn't have any lines, many lines to say in that. You know, it was
Yeah.
between Saira's character and the security
Yeah.
guard. So I was like, okay, what do I do? Like,
But-
Bay is not one to just stand around.
Yeah.
So then she started trying on the security hat,
Yeah.
and she was like
Yeah.
playing with the stick, and she was
Oh.
like reacting to everything, because she's not the kind of girl who will just, you know,
Wow.
stand there and
So
listen.
you improvised.
Yeah,
on
it was
the
all
go.
fun and
Oh.
improvisation.
Fun.
And yeah, so Bay in that sense, even though a lot of people think I'm very similar to her, actually I'm very, very different from
I was
how she
actually
is.
just going to ask you that. Are you quite similar to?
I think there's a part of me that's similar to her, but then she's also like, if I'm on level 1, she's on level 100. You know, she's everything into 10,
Yeah.
into 100. So in her actions and the way she speaks, the way she dresses, her confidence, I might have a little bit of that, but she's, as I said, like a drama queen and full on when it comes
Yeah.
to that. So in that way, I think as a character also, Bay was very enduring.
Nice. Got it. Fair enough. And you know, in the last 5 years since the time you had your debut, how has your process as an actor changed and evolved?
It's fully changed. I actually think when I started out, I didn't have any process because I'm not a trained actor. I didn't go to film school or anything. I literally came out from school and, you know, got onto a film set and started acting. And I honestly wouldn't have it any other way. You know, I'm really grateful for the way that my journey has panned out. And I learned so much being on a film set. You know, when we were shooting Student of the Year, even though my dad's an actor, he didn't take us on set much growing up. So I didn't know, like I must have been on maybe 2 film sets of his when I was really, really little. So I didn't know how like cameras work, what wide shots are, close shots are, how many times you do a take. I thought, okay, you just do it once. Some camera or the other will capture you and khatam.
Yeah.
But no, you know, there are angles and there's lighting and you have to be very, you know, aware of all these things. So I really feel like Student of the Year was my technical learning in that sense. Like Tiger used to literally move me between shots to tell me how to catch the light and how to hit my mark and all of that stuff. And I didn't have a process at that time. I was just enjoying every bit of it. I worked a lot with my directors, and I'm still a very director's actor. Like I really love spending time with my directors and kind of following their instructions in that sense. But when I started out, I was extremely dependent on my directors. In my first 3 or 4 films, up until Gehraiyan, whatever my director said, there would be no questions asked.
Okay.
I would just do it, you know, because obviously they know best,
Yeah.
it's their vision, and I didn't feel like I could contribute anything. I didn't know that you could, you know, have a voice or say that let's do this, let's do that. I was very scared to kind of raise my voice and give my opinion on something. But then Shakun on Gehraiyan really taught me how to do that. You know, he was like, not everyone is going to hold your hand or spoon feed you because you have so much to look out for. You know, there's so many actors on set, there's so much going on a set. So you have to kind of figure it out for yourself. So he really drilled that into me, and he really made me, I think, a way more independent and process-oriented actor. So now I'm a little bit of both. Like I listen obviously to my directors, and they're the most important people for me on a film set. But I also now, you know, voice my opinion or try to, you know, bring something of myself when I'm doing a role.
So, I mean, you have a take on
Yes.
on
Yeah.
what's
Because I mean, even if they say no, what's the worst that can happen? They'll say no, and you'll do it a certain way. And most of the directors I've worked with, Shakun and Arjun, who made Kho Gaye Hum Kahan, they always give you one for love. So, which is one take doing it your way, which I really, really enjoy doing.
Yeah. And what is your process today? as
So
an
I don't.
actor?
I think it changes a little bit with every film, but I'm very certain about backstories and writing backstories, because I don't feel like things just happen out of nowhere. It always goes back to something. So in Bay, actually, we had a very, long, fledged backstory about how she was in her childhood and how her parents treated her, what she saw of her parents, what she felt about her brother. And that really helped me, create a way more nuanced performance, because I may not be saying something, but at the back of my mind, I'm feeling something that, Bay probably felt in her childhood. So I'm very backstory oriented. And also, when you're shooting a certain scene, sometimes you don't show what's happened right before in the person's life. Like 1 second before they walked into the door, what were they thinking? You're just in a room. So even doing things like that about, okay, right before, what were they thinking? Also, I think, certain keywords right before a shoot, like, okay, and simplifying it down to just one word instead of too many thoughts. Just, okay, this is the main thought or the main emotion. So that, and like subtext, those kind of things. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm a way more technical actor now, I would say, like coming from Student of the Year when I didn't know anything.
Can you expand a bit on that when you say?
So for me, that means like hitting my mark correctly, knowing my dialogues pat, knowing everyone else's dialogues also, taking the light in, because you don't know, actually people don't know how many takes happen because of things like this, focus not being in place, not remembering dialogues. And that's something an actor should have in their it should become second skin, I feel. It shouldn't be something that kind of distracts you while you're performing, If I'm constantly thinking about, oh no, I'm not catching my light or anything, then I'll fumble in my performance and I won't be able to give it everything because I won't be in the moment. I'll be distracted by all sorts of things. So I've really made it a part of my process, and I'm very, rigid about getting my technical aspect right.
That's great.
And actually, a lot of the directors that I've worked with recently, with Colin, they all block before we start shooting. So when we come onto set, before we get into hair and makeup, all the actors come and we do the scene once. So by the time we come on set, there's no confusion about can we do this, can we do that. So I really like that, actually.
Yeah. I think it's a great, prep in a sense.
Yeah, for sure.
For the take. It's great. And when it comes to the roles that you pick, again, is there like a checklist that you have in a sense in terms of, is it always like wanting to work with certain directors? Is it the role? I mean, what is like that checklist that you have and how,
I think it's a mix of a lot of things, but I think the primary thing that I've come to realize is script. The script and the story. I think nothing can overpower that. Okay. There are obviously people that I really want to work with, and as a child growing up, I've looked up to certain people and wanted to work with them. And if they ever ask, or come up with an opportunity for me to work with them, it'll be a pat yes. Probably in some situations, I won't even consider the script, but I think usually number one would be the script. And I've realized with seeing actually so many examples from, the last couple of years that is what is the most important and what works out. And I want to be proud of the work that I do at the end of the day. When I started out, I was just 18 and I had a very myopic vision of what cinema should be, because I grew up watching only a certain kind of cinema. And I didn't know that there was more to do, or you could go even beyond that. And now the more and more I'm working, I'm realizing what it is that truly makes me happy, and things that I'm proud of, and the kind of, as they say, legacy you want to leave behind, that years later my children or my grandchildren will watch and they'll be like, oh, we are so happy to watch these kind of films.
Beautiful.
And movies.
Who are these directors that you're really hoping to work with? I think this is the right platform. You can manifest
I'm fully manifesting, but Vikram Sir Motwani was a huge one, because also he's my mum's favorite director.
Wow.
Udaan was a film that she made me watch so much in my childhood. So there was Vikram Sir for sure. Karan, he's my mentor, but I've never actually gotten the chance to be directed by him, and that would really be a dream come true. Sanjay Leela Bhansali, for sure. So many people, but I guess Zoya, I've worked with her in the capacity of her being a writer and a producer, but never been directed by her, and she is my all-time favorite director. So
for sure.
Yeah.
Wow, that's wonderful. And you're pretty active on social media. You have hosted a YouTube series. How much of you, or say like Gen Z actors generally, how much does social media in a sense play a role for you guys? Like how important is it in a sense?
So I grew up in a time where in my childhood there was no social media. So up until I was a teenager, we didn't have social media. So I did have those years of going downstairs and playing playing, those building games with your friends, and not being dependent on a phone or an iPhone or, an iPad in that sense. My parents also were very strict about that only after a certain age will you get a device and technology in that sense. So, so I kind of got onto social media when everyone started getting onto it, and I was still in school at that time. So my Instagram that time was just limited to my 200 followers, who were people that I knew. And I used to post all sorts of fun, silly things. So when I made my account public, I kind of still kept that that energy going, where I was kind of still acting like I'm posting for my friends only, and that's something that I've kind of stuck to till date, you know. I still kind of just don't take the pressure of it too seriously and kind of just have fun with it, because the more power you give it, the more I think it'll burden you. And it's something that's, you know, a part of all of our lives now. Even if we like it, if we don't like it, it's there in our lives, and we'll have to deal with it in some way or the other.
Absolutely.
So I think the best thing to do is just find what works for you, and that's the way I've been approaching it lately.
Yeah, most definitely. And you have a wonderful initiative which is so positive, right, which focuses on mental health. As a public figure who's, you know, like, I mean, dealing with trolls and people talking about you all the time, how do you deal with, you know, your mental health?
Yeah.
And constantly being, you know, packed in a sense.
It's a constant journey, I feel. It's not something that there's like a quick fix. I wish there was something that, okay, you do this and suddenly you're not affected by things at all. At the start, honestly, I would get really, really bogged down. Like, I would just be so upset. I'd be crying. I'd not want to shoot. I'd not want to do anything because I was so affected by what people would say. But I think over time, especially speaking about it has really taken the power away from it, in terms of it doesn't affect me as much, because I've realized that I'm not the only one it's happening to. You know, when I started so positive, cyberbullying was a thing that was happening to everyone, but no one was talking about it. And starting a conversation sometimes can make all the difference. And especially when I started it, I saw how much everyone was going through it. You know, it was something that as a community, even if you weren't an actor, you were dealing with it. You know, it's not just people who were in the public eye. I've met so many young girls and boys out there who are not in this line, but they're still dealing with bullying and cyberbullying and insecurities and pressure. So I think talking about it has really made me feel a lot better. And in general, how I look at mental health, you know, it's like you go to the gym every day. It's something that you have to keep working on. I used to go to therapy regularly. I'm not that regular anymore, and I wish I was more regular. But I have, you know, seek therapy out when I've not been in the best mental state. And I think just having a solid group of friends to talk to and work. For me, nothing is a better solution than work, because honestly, we're so privileged to have a job where for 12 hours in a day, you literally cannot think about anything else. Yeah, you're just not able to. Yeah.
That's, I think, you're, like you rightly said, I think I'm sure that's the best part of what you do. And, you know, coming to, since we're talking about, you know, your personal life in a sense, your mum and your cousin sister, you know, have both starred in reality TV shows. What is the dinner table conversation like, in a sense, around this, and how comfortable are you, in a sense, putting a part of your life out there for the public to look at?
So I, as a person, am quite an open book. Like, I've always been that way. Even if you see my first few interviews, and even to now, like, I don't really lie or hide. Like, I might, you know, swerve around a question or make a joke about it, but I'm not someone who hides too much or lies too much. So I'm mostly comfortable, you know. But over time, I have become more protective about things that really matter to me and things I want to keep protected, not because I'm lying to anyone or trying to hide something, but because there's so much of our lives out there that I want something for myself, you know, something that I can have that not everyone will have an opinion about or have something to say. So with that, I'm certainly more private, but nothing's really changed at home. I think now my mom is just a lot more, like, she's a lot busier, I would say. Like, she's like, oh, no, I can't help you with this, I'm shooting and I'm doing this, I'm doing that.
That's great.
Yeah.
Are there certain guidelines or certain pointers you gave her?
She doesn't need anything, because she used to be a VJ actually before. So she was a VJ. So she's actually also pretty comfortable in front of the camera. And I think the best thing with my mom, and like what I've heard from people also from the show, is that she's been really honest and she's really herself. You know, she's not gotten too carried away by what a reality star is supposed to be. Like, she's kind of, you know, been herself, which is good.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great. Is that something that you know, you've learned from her as well, to be, in a sense, fairly?
Yeah, I think she's honest and she's herself, and that's something both my parents are, to be honest. And yeah, that's
true. Fair enough. And when it comes to, you know, there are always these conversations that keep going around actors, public personalities, in a sense, having a perfect body, in a sense, and there's always that pressure to meet certain beauty standards. What's your take on that, and how do you think that can be changed as someone who is in the public limelight?
Again, I think talking about it, because it may seem like I'm very happy with my body and I'm what people would say ideal in terms of that beauty standard. Like I've heard that so much, but I'm so insecure about my body too, and I've been since I was a kid, because when I was in school people would be like, oh, you're a hunchback and you have toothpick legs and chicken legs and you're a flat screen TV. And also I've really heard those things like, why are your arms so hairy and all of that stuff. Like when you're a like a kid growing up, and like people's words can really affect you. Like the fact that I still remember exactly what people said and who said it 12 years later just goes to show how much words can stick. And I think as an actor, the best that I can do is kind of talk about the fact that I have my off days as well. And I work at it. Like I go to the gym every single day. If I was not, then I would also look a certain way. And I've just gotten back from Dubai. I was in Dubai and I ate a little bit too much and I wasn't fitting into my skirt, and that's okay. And I think talking about that just will go to show people that we are also not perfect, and it takes a lot to get us also to look like this. Like when I entered the office, I was in my pajamas and my wet hair and I was drinking my haldi pani, and I was like, if only people saw this side, they would understand.
No, that's great, because like you rightly said, I think the general public has a certain image.
And I'm always propagating that. Like when I went to Africa right now for my holiday, I didn't have makeup on and I was in my chashma and I was in my baggy clothes, and I posted pictures like that, because I'm like, people need to know what I actually look like and how I wake up also. And I've always propagated everybody being beautiful and kind of just self-love in that sense. I think that's the best as we can do as actors. And I also feel like at the time that we're living in right now, there isn't just one standard of beauty. I think even actors, if you watch all the actresses on screen right now and men on screen, everyone looks different and everyone is considered beautiful. And there's not just one type of way to look anymore.
Very, very true. And I feel that everyone talks about nepotism in a sense, and that there is a head start that you get into the industry. But if you were to look at the flip side of it, is that a kind of pressure that you feel in order to, you have to carry a certain family legacy, and does that, initially at least, did that sort of bog you down at all?
I think when I started out, there was such a negative association with the word nepotism, and I still feel like there is a negative association with it.
For sure.
And I've always been one to acknowledge that. Like I've always been the first one to be like, yes, I am, in a position of privilege, because my dad's an actor. His parents weren't actors; they were doctors. But okay, I'm a second-generation actor, I would say. So I did have, a front foot into the door, and I did have a much easier start than everyone else. But now I think I've come to realize, and I kind of want to be proud of my legacy and of my father. I don't want to constantly be pushing that away and be like, no, I want to take his legacy forward. He has come from a family of doctors and he wanted to be an actor, and he made a name for himself and his family, and that's something I'm extremely proud of, and I don't want to shy away from it. So I think just owning it and being truthful and honest, I think that's the best way to deal with it, because people always have something to say. And they will continue to say things, and I think nothing speaks louder than your work at the end of the day. There's no need to always, answer back or fight back or say this or say that. I feel like over time, when people accept you and they like your work, there's no bigger victory than that.
I think that's a very mature way of dealing with it, for sure. And when you're looking forward, where do you see yourself, say, in the next 5 years, professionally and personally?
Professionally and personally. So professionally, I really see myself at the top of my game, like personally my game, because I'm not going to say like there's no competition. There's always competition, but right now I'm really focusing on just working. I don't want to sound like Ori and say I'm working on myself, but I really am working on myself and just getting better at my craft. I want to be the best possible actor that I can be and reach as many people as I can, because I've seen that direct impact with Kho Gaye Hum Kahan and with Call Me Bae and with Control. I've seen how much it can reach people, how much confidence it can give young girls and boys, how validated they can feel when they see someone like them on screen. That relatability, that comfort that they get from certain characters, I want to always be able to do that. So that's how I see myself professionally, I would say. Personally, 5 years, now you said?
Yeah, 5 years.
Hopefully married, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, 5 years. Yeah, now I'm 26. Okay, yeah. 5 years.
Workable.
Hopefully married and have a happy, settled home, planning babies and lots of dogs.
Lovely. We
Yes.
hope that for you too. You just mentioned competition in a sense. I wanted to know, are you how competitive are you? Do you keep an eye out for your peers' work and is
You
that
have to. You kind of have to. You can't be unaware and live in this. I wish ignorance was bliss in this case, and you could just live away in your bubble. But you'd be very ignorant if you were doing that. You have to kind of always look at what's happening, because it's not always a negative thing. Competition fuels you as well. It makes you want to do better. It definitely pushes me. I'm very competitive, but I'm like a quiet competitor. I'm not someone who shouts out, but I was sports captain in my school, so I'm someone who's always pushing myself and feeling like I can do better. So there's definitely competition, and you should and have to keep your eye out, but don't let it make you bitter or negative or have all those emotions of insecurity and jealousy, because I really feel like there's room for everyone.
Nice. And do you have aspirations beyond acting? In terms of producing, at some point even maybe, I don't know, directing also?
I don't think I can direct.
Okay.
I don't think so yet that I can direct. Definitely producing is something that me and my dad have spoken about a lot, because sometimes a script comes along and then you feel like, but this thing is not right about it. I wish there was someone else, and you kind of there's so many permutations and combinations when you're choosing something, and when you're a producer you can package a lot more things and you can put so many things together. And also there are things that I may like but I don't see myself in, but I'm like, oh, I wish someone makes this. And when you're a producer, you have the power to do that. And I think the work all the girls are doing, with Alia and Kriti and Deepika, the work they've done with their production, it's really given them a new life as an actor. They're doing something completely different while still sticking to things they're known for best. And that is definitely something that I look towards and hope to do someday. And I'm happy with my initiative now, which is so positive. I definitely wanted to grow a lot more.
Wonderful. Yeah. And just one last thing, what's coming up next and what are you very excited about?
So there's lots coming. I have a film that's coming out in March next year. It's based on a book which is called The Case That Shook the Empire. So it's about the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, and it's based in the 1920s. So it's very different. It's not something that I've done before. So I'm...
Would you say it's one of the most challenging roles in a sense?
Definitely in terms of dialect, in the way that I look, and performance also. It's a courtroom drama and it's not something that I've done before. So that's with Akshay sir and Maddie sir. So that I'm really excited about that. And it's different because, right now I feel like it's just so happened that I've had Kho Gaye Hum Kahan, Control and Call Me Babe back to back, which is Gen Z and social media. And I really do want people to be able to see me in something completely different. So that's that.
Okay.
And I've actually signed 4 things for next year, which I'm really excited about, because I've not been on a set for very long, because I've not found that right thing that I want to do. I can't talk about them yet because Achi Chand Mera Dil is announced with Laksh, which is exciting because it's a hardcore romantic film. And that's again something that I've not done. I've done cutesy, Gen Z, and I've done Pati Patni Aur Wo, which is a comedy in that sense, but I've not done like a hardcore romantic
rom-com.
Yeah, because in every film like Gehraiyan, Control, I'm only getting cheated on, so there's no room only for romance. So this Chand Mera Dil, I feel like will be one of those beautiful romantic films. And then 3 more things that I have.
Wonderful. Any more TV shows? I'm
no, we're going to do Bay season 2.
Of course.
So I'm focusing on Bay right now. And it was actually really exciting for us because they announced season 2 so quickly. It was over the weekend that it received so much love and all of that. And suddenly season 2 was announced and we were like, okay, we're really excited to get back.
I think it's fantastic. The show is fantastic and you were lovely in it. So that's good. Thank you so much for your time. I think this was wonderful. Damn.